Hey guys, in this week's Casually Criterion episode, we're talking about The Big Chill. But before we do that, we're going to be talking about Malignant and the TV show Dave. So, join us!
Hello and welcome to the Casual Cinecast powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris, and with me, as always, is the Big Chill Mike. How you doing today?
Oh, good. I didn't realize that was my nickname, but thank you. That sounds cool.
It's your nickname now. Also with us is someone who's getting a new nickname as well, the Medium Chill. Justin, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I think my level of chill is pretty good, honestly. I feel slighted by having a medium level of chill.
It's like if we were being honest, I feel like Justin's probably chiller than I.
Yeah, so he's medium chill as opposed to being big chill.
I see.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Makes perfect sense, guys.
And if this is your first time listening, this is a Casually Criterion episode, which is a, you guessed it, Criterion Collection focused episode that we like to do, if not every other week, at least every other episode, where we review a film from the Criterion Collection that is voted on by the listeners. But before we get into the main review, like always, we'll be doing our usual News on the March, which is a section where we talk about the recent things we've been watching, or news if it is interesting enough. So if you haven't seen the movie, you could still listen, and then we will move into the Casually Criterion review for The Big Chill, Spine number 720.
That's right, and as Mike said, the listeners choose our Criterion films, so if you want to follow along with what Criterions we're going to watch next or vote in the poll, follow us on Twitter at Casual Cinecast. That's where we post the poll, but you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. If you want to send us any questions about the movies we're reviewing each week, you can send those to any of those social media accounts or to casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you haven't done so already, go into iTunes, give us a 5-star review. It'll help people find the show. It'll make us feel good. It's a real win-win-win because you'll feel
for
good
everyone,
too.
you see.
Yes.
All right. All right. And I think with that, it is time to just get on with the show. So, News on the March.
News on the March!
All right, here we are in News on the March, and first up, I guess we'll go to Mike. What have you been watching, or what news has been marching in your mind?
Thank you. Well, news-wise, I just want to say briefly, this is really quickly, there have been some deaths recently that have upset me. Jean-Paul Belmondo has passed, and then I think yesterday, everyone just came to the terms with Norm Macdonald passing.
Yep.
And I don't want to spend too much time on those other than just to say I love both those guys, and I'm sad. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
Same. Jean-Paul Belmondo was, I might have fudged up his name there, but Jean-Paul Belmondo.
John Paul.
Yeah, that guy. He was probably like the first foreign actor that I latched onto where I recognized, and
he's a unique looking guy.
Yeah, and basically if I saw him in anything, I was interested, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like the Melville movies that he did, the Leomore and Priest, the
Godard,
Le Magnifique, anything with Godard. Yeah, if he was in a Godard film, I was obviously in. And so yeah, he's a pretty influential guy, I feel like, in terms of helping me discover a lot of movies in my early cinephile days.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to those two. They will be missed. But anyway, as far as what I've been watching goes, I've just been rewatching a lot of stuff, which I won't go into here, but the only new movie, well, I saw Shang-Chi, but we're not going to talk about that because it's old news at this point. But there's a film on HBO Max called Malignant. Have you guys heard of this movie?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a new horror film by James Wan, which I think was something that he wanted to do. Like, he brought it to them, to the studio, after he made them like a bunch of money with Aquaman. And so they were like, what do you want to do next? And he was like, this. And it is a film that I won't get too into because there are things that happen that I think are pretty obvious, but a lot of people seem to have thought they were twists. So I won't spoil them. But this thing is extremely corny. Like, intentionally corny, but very, very corny. I'm trying to I would liken it to something like M. Night Shyamalan. Only with M. Night Shyamalan's movies, you're watching them and you can't tell if he's trying to be corny or not, or hokey. He just kind of is. Like, like The Happening, or even Old recently, where like it's a neat idea, or it's a respectable horror movie idea, but it's not handled in like the most graceful way.
Right.
Malignant feels like that, but on purpose. Like, there's no doubt in your mind that you're watching something that was meant to be corny and a throwback to... It's like the opposite of something like Hereditary or an A24 horror movie, right? It's not highbrow. It's not... I don't know. It's just this bizarre, wacky, sometimes poorly acted, weird movie about a girl that was adopted, and the older she gets, the more she starts to hear voices in her head, and she's trying to remember what happened to her as a little girl that would maybe be causing all of this, and people start dying, and it's there's parts of this movie, like whole sections, where you're watching it and you kind of forget how dumb the thing you're watching is. And then there'll be like this dialogue where someone will say something like, no, you don't understand. I'm adopted. And then it'll like zoom in on their face, like a crazy Dario Argento style zoom, And like the score will just go crazy. It reminds me of like Suspiria meets an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking for something entertaining, you could do worse than this, for sure. It's on HBO Max. I wouldn't go to the theater to see it myself. Unless you're in there with a whole bunch of horror fans that are going to like laugh at the right times and get into it at the right times. That might make it a more worthwhile experience. But I watched it by myself in my room at like 11 p.m. and never got scared. I laughed a couple times and then found myself trying to buy into it other times. It's not a movie that I necessarily liked a whole lot. Like, I probably would give it 2.5 stars out of 5. But part of me wants to like it more because of what it's trying to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously, because I know how you feel about these other films, but where does it fall in films that sound like what you're describing that I really like, in Cabin in the Woods and Drag Me to Hell? Is it in that sort of campy ballpark at all?
I would say, have you ever seen, it's a little closer to Drag Me to Hell. Like, okay. But by way of John Carpenter, in a way. Like, have you ever seen Ghosts of Mars?
I have not. I want to.
Okay. It's extremely corny on purpose, but didn't really pull it off as well. It's okay. Like, have you ever seen the other James Wan horror movies, like Insidious or all those one-word horror? Yeah, well, Saw is kind of almost more respectable.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yes.
Okay, well, it's better than like Insidious or not as good as The Conjuring. But it's like, I would say it's like Insidious if Insidious were like a horror comedy.
Gotcha. That's kind of what it looks like, really, and I've only seen the poster.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's stylized. It's got a cool, like, fun score where it kind of like the score comes in and it's sort of like a play on "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies, right? Like a cover.
Yeah.
So I don't know. it's something that it's really hard to describe without like getting into specifics, but I can't really do that because it would ruin everything. So let me just say that if you're not a fan of James Wan's filmography, which I'm pretty hit or miss on James Wan, but I'm not a big horror guy, this was something more interesting than it looked like it was going to be.
So would you say this movie is one, like, maybe it doesn't hit it out of the park, but like it's trying new things and trying to hit it out of the park? Would you say that?
I think it's ballsy in the sense that James Wan clearly expects the audience to either get it or not. Like, I think he knows that it's not, like, a lot of people are going to watch it and not understand that they're watching something that's like inspired by B movies. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people will watch this and be like, what the hell is this? This is stupid. And I think James Wan didn't make it for those people. So it's a movie that is brave in the sense that it's not even trying to appeal to like people who want to get scared.
Yeah.
It's strictly for people who kind of understand that sometimes horror is just campy fun. You know? Like a very 80s throwback. So.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, your mileage may vary. Like I said, I didn't have as much fun as I wished I was having. But I admire it, you know? It's like a sillier version of Jeepers Creepers or something.
Yeah. Maybe watching it with a friend or, you know, someone else to laugh with might improve.
I think so. I you know, and in that sense, I think like I said, a theater full of horror movie fans could go either way because they may think it's like really dumb. Like when I watched Drag Me to Hell in a movie theater, I would say it was like 50-50 on people laughing and 50-50 people being like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. I think I was there, so I remember that.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, mileage may vary, but I recommend it if you're at all interested.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I will put it down.
Cool. So I'll just keep it, I'll keep it there because to talk anymore would be to kind of take the joy of discovering what the hell this weird, wacky movie is for yourself. So, Chris,
Great.
I'll throw it to you, man. What have you got going on?
Yeah. I watched the season 2 of Dave. I don't think I talked about Dave the first season on here. I think I wanted to, but we never really got a chance. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure, just to pitch the whole season, the whole series to you guys. Are either one of you guys familiar with Little Dicky? The rapper?
I am.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's kind of like a rapper, and I think he's probably a little bit closer to like Tenacious D in that, like kind of a little bit more
Novelty?
Yeah, novelty and funny and like commenting on things, you know. But and I wasn't even familiar with him as a singer before watching the show. But Dave is a show that he made, and it's I would say like the closest thing is to Atlanta, because like there's each episode's kind of like a little nugget, and then they do continue. Like the first season's basically about him trying to, you know, start his career and like get a viral video with one of his raps or whatever. And then the second season's about him like having had a viral video, moving on from there, and like how he moves on from there, and dealing with the pressure of like trying to put an album out and stuff. I think it's really funny, insightful, and like the relationships between the characters are really great. If you liked Atlanta, I think that you would like Dave. That's kind of the closest thing I would say to it.
I liked the first 4 episodes of Atlanta, but I don't think I kept going.
Yeah, it's been so long since Atlanta's been on, I've forgotten about it. But yeah, I like Dave quite a bit. It's really funny. Comments on a bunch of stuff. Have neither one of you guys have watched it or?
No, but I've heard another podcast talk about it, and they said the second season was a lot darker.
Yeah, so...
Do you find that to be the case?
At least in the beginning of the second season. So in the second season, at the beginning of it, he's made it, kind of. And so he's like in South Korea, and he's trying to do things and kind of manipulate his way. He's kind of left people behind because now he's somewhat famous, and so he's kind of let it go to his head a bit, and is more focused on his work than his friendships and stuff like that. So it is a little bit darker, but I think it lightens up towards midway through the season. But the first episode of the second season is really funny.
How many episodes are there in each season?
I think it's like 9. I don't remember how many is in the first one, but it's 9 in the second.
A 30-minute show or an hour?
30-minute show. So that's part of the fun. Like it kind of distills everything down and so that it's just these like quick beats, just like Atlanta, I feel like, but it's these real distilled down nuggets of character and jokes and stuff like that. I think it's
is this like a streaming show, or is it like a on TV thing? Like, is it like Ted Lasso 30 minutes, or is it like 22 minutes with commercials?
It's on FX on Hulu, so I have the Hulu app with the commercials because I have Spotify, so I have to watch commercials because I'm too cheap to splurge for the non-commercial ones.
Sure.
Although watching Dave
the
second season made me want to go ahead and splurge because it's like commercial breaks way too much. I'm not used to commercial breaks.
Is it the same like 2 commercials over and over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, not quite over and over, just the same 2, but there's like a very small rotation of commercials.
Yeah. When I was watching Handmaid's Tale season 3 or whatever, it was like the month leading up to Invisible Man coming out in theaters. So they were really like advertising all this Elizabeth Moss stuff, and it was the same like 2 commercials over and over. And I about went crazy.
Yeah, that's the only downside of Hulu with ads. Otherwise, I kind of prefer it because it gives me an opportunity to like check my phone or respond to a text message, and then I can put it down and know that.
Yeah, go to the bathroom.
I know that it at some point in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will have an opportunity to check my phone, so I don't feel the urge to like look at it and make sure no one texts me or something, during a show.
I think I feel that way.
Nice.
If there's like 2 less commercial breaks. I think there's like commercials at the beginning and then like 3 in the middle, maybe 4 for a 30-minute show. I do think that it probably varies in length. They're not set on a 22-minute schedule. I didn't check every episode's length, but it was just a little almost too many commercials. Yeah. Just like 1 or 2 mini commercial breaks.
Yeah. I've always wanted to watch this show because I do like Little Dicky somewhat. I've seen quite a few of his YouTube videos, like his rap music videos, and while I don't like them all,
right,
there are a couple that I found to be very funny. One in particular I love, just if anybody wants a little taste of his stuff, is called Pillow Talking.
Yeah,
which is it's like 11 minutes long.
Yeah, it's very long. But the girl that's in that is also in the TV show. In fact, I believe a lot of the people that were like around him as he came up are in the TV show. So like his hype man is actually his hype man in real life. So he brought a lot of people along with him for the show. And what I would say actually is, Justin, I think you would like it. I think you might even love it. Mike might be a harder sale on it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm just kidding. It doesn't. I saw the trailer for season 2 when it was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked about this just a moment ago, and the season 2, like Dave season 2 coming out soon trailer. I don't remember what was going on. It was like an anteater. He was trying to bring an anteater across the street or something like that, and then he got hit by a car, or I don't know. It seemed very nonsensical.
That commercial was nonsensical. I didn't necessarily mind it.
Does that represent the tone of the show?
I think the anteater is like a thematic element to the whole show. Like his house becomes infested with ants throughout the whole show. And anteaters pop up in the background. I haven't done like anyways. I don't know that that's exactly representative of the show. I guess so. It's Atlanta crossed with Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think that's the best analogy I can.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, try it. I'd be interested to hear what you say. If I was to predict, I would say that you'd be a tougher sell. You're more likely not to like it, and Justin's more likely to like it. So,
We'll have to try him on that, Justin.
Yeah, prove me wrong.
Maybe by
come
the next
back on.
episode,
Justin will hate it, and Mike will love it.
Yeah, we'll watch it by the next episode, and then we'll come back and either make fun of or congratulate Chris, whichever way it goes.
At how well he knows us, or doesn't.
Well, that's what I've been doing. But I do recommend it, at least trying it out. If people are listening and they haven't even heard of Dave, try out a couple, or just Google him and Little Dicky and watch a couple of his music videos. That'll give you a good idea too whether you like him.
Sweet. Cool. Awesome. Sounds good. Have you been watching Ted Lasso, Chris?
Yep. I think there's only one more episode left, right?
No, there's 4 more, I think. It's a 12-episode season, not a 10.
Oh, wow.
Man,
Good.
I wonder if that's too many episodes. I guess we'll know in 4 episodes' time.
Yeah. I'll let you
I
know.
kind of felt like they were about to wrap up.
Yeah, it felt like that the last one, but which is why I looked it up and saw that there were 12. But it was originally 10, and then they did 2 bonus episodes at some point.
Had a Christmas episode. Wasn't that a bonus type episode?
The Christmas one was one of the bonus ones, and I don't know what the other one was, but
I think they should have released the Christmas episode like later in the year, around Christmas, as like a surprise.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice, and not to get too deep into Ted Lasso, but that Christmas episode, to my recollection, didn't affect anything in the season, like nobody's arcs or plots.
Yeah, not very much for sure. It could have been
a random, here's a fun Ted Lasso episode you didn't expect.
Yeah,
so I agree, Mike.
I remember it just felt weird. I was like, oh, we're in a Christmas episode here, and like, why would they? Okay, whatever, because like I know it won't be on air, or it won't be. It's not even on air. It's like we won't be streaming and releasing around Christmas. But I feel like they could have released the whole season, and then around Christmas time, be like, hey, surprise everyone! Here's a Ted Lasso bonus special.
Well, I guess it depends on how season 2. Oh, sorry. I guess it depends on how season 2 ends. Like, there's like a big
the whole
cliffhanger.
dynamic may change. But
yeah.
Anyways, cool. Enough about that. Are we done in News on the March?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into our Casually Criterion review for The Big Chill.
It's about everything. Suicide, despair, where did our hope go? Lost hope, that's it, lost hope.
Columbia Pictures invites you to return to the weekend that started it all. Remember the music and the moments.
The ground is ready. It just needs someone to plant the seed.
Yeah, but who's going to be the lucky farmer?
You want me to do what?
The friendship and the romance.
Alex and I made love the night before he died. It was fantastic.
The laughter and the tears.
I feel like I was at my best when I was with you people.
Not me. Getting away from you people is the best thing ever happened to me. I mean, how much sex, fun, friendship can one man take?
15 years ago, The Big Chill helped launch the careers of some of today's biggest stars and became one of the most memorable films of the decade.
You were hallucinating pretty bad that night. And we didn't even have any drugs.
Now, on November 6th, The Big Chill is back on the big screen.
Really?
Really?
On a digitally remastered print and in stereo for the first time. Tom Berenger, Glenn Close, Jeff Goldblum, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Mary Kay Place, Meg Tilly, and Jo Beth Williams.
You know, you'd never get a crowd this big at my funeral.
Oh, Karen, come on, I'll come and, I'll bring a date.
In a cold world,
Wise up, folks. We're all alone out there.
you still need your friends to keep you warm.
I don't know what people think about me.
You don't have that problem here. You know I don't like you.
I'll be right back.
The Big Chill, a Lawrence Kasdan film, in theaters November 6th.
Okay, so as always with our Criterion films, they're typically older films that have been out for a while, so we will not be doing our usual spoiler-free section up front.
Aww.
Where we, yeah, sorry, Mike, where we get to, we talk without spoiling anything. So if you have not seen The Big Chill and you do not want it spoiled at all, pause the podcast right now and go watch Big Chill and come back. Finish listening.
Yeah. See you then. Okay. The Big Chill was directed by Lawrence Kasdan. It stars Tom Berenger, Kevin Kline, Glenn Close, William Hurt, Jeff Goldblum, and Mary Kay Place, along with Meg Tilly. The IMDb synopsis says, a group of 7 former college friends gather for a weekend reunion in a South Carolina vacation home after a funeral of one of their college friends. I said that like it was going to keep going, but that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So, The Big Chill. Who wants to get us started on this film?
Who picked this movie? That's the real question.
Oh, yeah, that was me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe
I
you can
that was
start of why you picked it.
Well, I picked it because we were doing blind spots and I hadn't seen it. So...
Well, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's the end of that. This movie is something that has been on my radar for quite some time. I remember back whenever I was a little boy going through the video rental store with my dad, and I remember seeing the VHS cover for this movie and being like, this movie looks boring. It looks like a bunch of adults talking, and I have no interest in this. But as I got older and I knew who Lawrence Kasdan was, I realized that he wrote like some of the best Star Wars movies, if you look at them, and Indiana Jones. And I just realized that I like Lawrence Kasdan. And so I've always wanted to kind of dive into some of his older 80s movies. Like, I've still never seen Body Heat. And I want to. Yeah. But this one was always one that I really liked the cast. Like, I've always been a big William Hurt fan. I like Kevin Kline. I like Glenn Close. Jeff Goldblum is, he's Jeff Goldblum. So, yeah, it's always been something that's been circling, and I just never really got around to it, so this seemed like the perfect opportunity. And it's okay. I think it's not my favorite Criterion film that we've released, but I don't dislike it in any way, shape, or form. I think there's a lot of really fun, smart, insightful dialogue. And then there's some dialogue that I maybe feels a little clunky and hasn't aged super well. But I don't know. I guess we'll get more into that probably later. But what I do like about it quite a bit is every character has something going on. They feel like unique individual personalities. They all sound different. They look different. They have something going on with them. And each one of them has a fun arc, I think. And so there's a lot to talk about. And I think it'll be more fun to break down and kind of discuss those character dynamics in this podcast. So I'll keep it there, but just to say that I would say it's okay. And I could possibly change my opinion and it could grow on me as time goes on. But I just watched this like last night, so I'm still mulling it over in my brain how I feel about certain things and the way certain characters' arcs concluded and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's a lot more of a cynical movie than I thought it was going to be. Like, I think the way it ends, I took it more as more of a cynical ending, or at least for certain characters.
A Tokyo Story type ending, maybe.
Not quite that. Not quite that. But I don't know. I guess we'll get more into it later. But as someone who's in my early 30s right now, I could see myself in a lot of these characters, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But anyways, yeah. Chris, what do you think?
I think I missed my chance at an intro. I should have introduced you as like who I thought you were in The Big Chill. Like you and Justin.
Who do you think I am in The Big Chill?
Well, I don't. Probably you're
Meg Tilly, obviously.
I would say William Hurt. You're pretty cynical. I don't about stuff.
I'll take it.
Okay,
I'll take it.
I was gonna say Meg Tilly, but
I mean, that was the other one I was gonna go with, but yeah.
But only because you're a ballet dancer.
Yeah, only because of that. You're right. I am cynical, and I think William Hurt's the best character. So his name was Nick.
And you have a badass earring like he does.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that until like one of the last couple scenes of the movie. And I was like, "What's that crap on William Hurt? Is his earlobe looking weird?" And I was like, "Oh no, he's got an earring."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you asked me. I'm right there with you, Mike. I feel kind of like. I feel medium chill on this movie.
That's
I'm
my
sorry,
job,
Justin. I like it, and I wonder if that's because of how generational this movie might be. And as we talk about it, maybe we can figure out more stuff. I wonder if this is a movie of its time as opposed to something that's timeless, where because I come from, like a generation after this, maybe I don't identify with the characters quite as much.
Right, like where you have like the 80s, 90s, and the aughts to reference, they had like the 60s, 70s, and
so I think that might be where the disconnect is. The cast is amazing. It's a stacked cast. Like it's a who's who. Like all these people go on to do many and bigger things.
William Hurt was in Lost in Space, 1998,
and one of those Avenger movies. Yeah, several of them.
He just keeps showing up for no reason. Anyways, but yeah, so I like the acting. I like the way it's written, or parts of it. But I just don't find myself connecting with the characters, and I think that might be a generational thing. I do think maybe also the thing that's getting in the way of me really liking this film is there's a lot of needle drops, where like it's kind of like a montage of them playing football or another montage of them doing something else, which is fine. I don't necessarily mind it, but it felt like there's a lot of those, and we'll find out how you guys feel about that. I did really like the intro, the funeral, and the way everybody met. Like, you kind of got a feeling for who these people were without saying anything, but just the way they, like, you knew that they were all good friends, and the way they were meeting each other for the first time in years and years at a funeral. I found that that opening sequence really great, and I love.
Yeah, killer soundtrack, by the way.
It's a great soundtrack. I love the organ playing. You can't always get what you want. I thought that was really great, and then the reaction of everybody listening to it is really great too.
They had the same reaction I did, because I smiled and kind of like went up. I gave like a little
one nod as one tear slowly went down your cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're on the soundtrack, I know I haven't really given my thoughts yet, but like just to jump in on the thought of the needle drops, I think that the issue, if you want to call it that, with that is that every song that is in the movie, just about like every needle drop, is just a classic, super popular song.
Yeah.
Right. And so they kind of have their own context for us. And maybe they had less of a context at the time just because they hadn't had as much time to endure.
That's possible. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it makes them stick out in a way that's a little weird, right? Because it kind of dissociates me from the movie, because I'm thinking about the song, be like, oh yeah, this song.
Well, yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like, whereas like the songs are all kind of like of their time when they were.
It meant something to them.
And then, right, it meant something to them. It'd be like, something like it would be like a song released in 2005 for us now. Right. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I think it was where with us, like we didn't experience those songs like growing up with our friends and like forming memories to those songs. They were just part of our childhood and in pop culture.
Yeah, well, and it's like if you want to compare it to Tarantino needle drops, right? Like I feel like when Tarantino does one, he shows me a song that I end up loving because it works so well in the moment, right? And I may not necessarily know it beforehand.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably 9 times out of 10 anyways, right?
Sure.
And you already knew all these songs.
I know all of these songs. I love them. They have their own context.
You have your own history with them.
From who... Yeah.
I've seen them in other movies other times.
Yeah. So to have so many of them that are that heavy of a needle drop, if you will, I think is what... it's not even necessarily a bad thing. It's just one of those things that like separated me from the movie.
And I think maybe also dates the movie.
Maybe, yeah. They're so classic overall, though, and
right.
I think they're from a decent variety of time period.
It's like soul, R&B, and then rock, Motown.
Yeah. But anyways,
okay, so
sorry.
Justin, your thoughts? Or is Justin,
I'm all wrapped
Chris,
up.
Are you still going
go
thoughts?
ahead, Justin.
Yeah. So I don't know totally where I stand on this movie. My initial reaction was a bit probably similar to you guys, that a medium chill sort of reaction. And what I will say is that I think that this movie will get better on a repeat viewing, because this is a movie about friends hanging out, friends reuniting, and it's also relatively vague on backstory and like setting them up as characters, and at least for a while, like it kind of slowly leaks out information.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of things like that opening funeral scene will have more weight to them now that I know who all these people are and maybe who they were.
Yeah, and what their dynamics were.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a hangout movie, because like all of these people just kind of hang out and talk
and chill.
Definition of a
chill.
hangout movie.
Yeah, so I think going back to revisit this will be a little more interesting, having known the characters, getting to revisit the characters. And I like that, or at least I think I like that some of the dialogue is so natural and not too expository that I did find myself a lot of the times not necessarily knowing who they were talking about early on until I got acquainted to everybody, or not necessarily knowing exactly what's going on. Like the movie didn't bend over backwards to make sure you understood every conversation the first time around.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I had to bust out IMDb so I could keep track of the names.
Yeah.
In the first act.
Like
and so,
I think we had the same reaction kind of to Amarcord, like the Fellini film, where each time you revisit it, you know them better. And I really like that point, and I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we reviewed Amarcord, that was my second time to see it, and I loved it a lot more than the first time. So anyways, that's maybe where I kind of differ. I'm not totally sure how I feel about it, but I think it requires a rewatch. I think the film is necessary to rewatch it, really, to fully grab everything, because it is so natural in the sense that like I don't feel like they're feeding me every bit of detail I need to know for every conversation to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And then to this movie's credit, I think you're right, first of all, but to this movie's credit, even though I say I'm like medium chill on it, I wouldn't mind watching it again. Like it wasn't boring to me.
No.
Like to me, it seems like the best of like a Woody Allen movie, kind of. Like I find myself kind of mixed on a lot of Woody Allen movies. I think the dialogue is kind of repetitive and all that stuff. This movie, like to me, is like a better version of Woody Allen's like hang out and talk movies, where characters hook up and don't hook up and break up and don't break up, and you know what I mean? Like
it's like somewhere between like Woody Allen and Richard Linklater.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Yeah,
that's very good.
A lot of the people I talked to or read that really love this movie had watched it, many times. Like they were like, I used to watch this all the time as a kid. So maybe you certainly have a point there.
Yeah, because, and this goes to what we were saying earlier too about it, being of the time and maybe having a bit more experience to our significance to somebody who would have gone to see this movie at the time that it came out. Right? Someone that was our age in 1983.
And of their generation.
Yeah,
it would connect a lot easier.
Yeah. And so to that point, there's a film that I used to watch constantly that the first time I watched it, I rented it because it had a cool looking cover with like punk looking kids on it. And I was a punk kid.
I think I know where this is going.
And I didn't, like once I watched it, I was like, oh, nothing happened, and everyone kind of talked the whole time in this movie, and it wasn't funny, and whatever. And that film is Richard Linklater's Suburbia.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was definitely
this.
Sorry, real quick.
Ahead.
This is if all the people from Suburbia got together, like 20 years later.
Exactly. Yeah. But also, it's the same type of movie. It's a group of friends, and you get to know everybody. This movie might overall be better than Suburbia.
I connected with Suburbia more.
It's hard to know because Suburbia hasn't had a good release, or didn't for a long time. I haven't seen it since it was like on TV when I was like 19 years old.
Yeah, I used to watch it on VHS, and I don't know that I've ever seen a DVD of it anywhere. But anyways, Suburbia, like when I watched that, you know, these were punk kids, a little out of high school. I was maybe junior, senior in high school when I was watching this movie a lot, and I connected with it. And I feel like you know, this is that type of movie which you guys have said already, but
yeah, I agree. And I think the difference here is these characters in this movie are in their mid to late 30s. You know? And a lot of it has to do with not quite midlife crisis, but they're getting older. And the idea that, like, they still haven't found exactly where they belong in the world. They keep wanting to switch careers, in some cases partners. And so it has this idea of, like, it's like a very Mad Men type idea, which is like, you look like you've made it to everyone else, but no amount of success can make you happy. You know, and like, what is that thing that can make you happy? What is that thing that can make you feel fulfilled in life?
Yeah, and how much of what you think could make you happy is derived from looking back on days when you thought you were happier, or when you felt like you were happier, you know, and maybe trying to not necessarily reclaim those, because I don't know that is necessarily happening in this movie, but you look back on the past sometimes fonder than maybe it felt in the time, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, and so much of this like, this is the first time in who knows how long a lot of these characters have seen one another. And so, you know, there's no social media. There's no, let's get on Instagram to see like how so-and-so's doing. You know, so a lot of times, like, there's stuff that has been unspoken for many years coming to the surface this one weekend, you know, where everyone is in town to see each other. And a lot of that's pretty fascinating to me. I found, like, a lot of the character arcs I found actually quite interesting. I think William Hurt has a really interesting character arc and a really interesting character in general. I also feel like I'm so bad with their names.
Well, real quick, while we're on William Hurt, I did want to. So when you first start this movie, he's driving his Porsche that's all beat up, and he reaches into his glove compartment and he pulls out a bunch of pills, right? And I've seen a lot of movies like this, and I think, oh, well, before the end of this movie, he's either going to have overdose or he's going to have like an episode where he takes too much, you know, or something like that, like, or he gets out of control in some way, because that's typically what that character does in a movie like this, right? The pill popper or the drunk, and there's never a moment.
It's like the gun, right? It's like the gun, right? Like the Chekhov's gun or whatever.
While he takes a lot of pills over the whole weekend, there's never necessarily a moment where he's out of control or he argues and stuff like that. But no one really gets out of control in this, or like gets.
No, I think, I agree with. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I agree. The movie has more on its mind than just to like use that as like a Chekhov's gun. Instead, it's about his arc of like, why is he doing this? Like, why does he take so many pills? Why is he stashing weed?
I think
is that
cocaine.
What it was under his car? I don't know. Like, yeah. This probably makes more sense. It was like in a brick, but like, it's more interested in like, why is he doing this, and what is the root cause of his need to self-medicate? Not so much like he's going to move the plot forward with his habit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, that's kind of how this film treats most everything, you know? Maybe with the exception of, was it Mary Kay Place's desire to have a baby?
But even that
is
like... Yeah, but even that is kind of handled in like a really non-dramatic way. Like, there's no real, like, even when dramatic things are happening in any other movie would be like a melodrama for like getting ready for a fallout of some sort.
Yeah. Well, we skipped the whole really scene with...
this movie really just kind of handles everything in a realistic way, I want to say, or like a mature way.
Yeah.
right? Like every character's got something going on, some sort of drama, and there's these inner dynamics that don't always come to the surface until these characters go off by themselves and have these one-on-one conversations where, you know, like William Hurt and Kevin Kline will go exercising in the morning, and William Hurt's wearing blue jeans and a sweater while Kevin Kline's like wearing workout shorts and a t-shirt. And then all of a sudden they'll have a talk about like what Kevin Kline's financial situation is, and you realize he's about to come into some money and he's wanting to look out for his friends, and then you realize that his wife had an affair with the guy that killed himself. Mm-hmm. And it didn't break up their marriage, and it didn't break up the friendship necessarily. It put something there, but, you know, there's no melodrama in it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? It's just sort of unfolds, and then you start to understand these dynamics a little bit better, you know?
Yeah, as close as a movie can get to a weekend of friends hanging out like this. This is, I guess, yeah, this is pretty realistic as opposed to like, you know, somebody walking in on somebody else having sex and getting mad about it, or, you know, any of those high drama moments that you'd expect out of a movie like this. There really isn't that in here. I mean, I think that...
Right. Everyone's so accepting of one another.
The closest it gets is when Tom Berenger and William Hurt have their arguments over like their philosophy on life and like their friends and how they see their friendships in life, you know.
Right. I was about to say, like, the closest thing I could think of was whenever Tom Berenger like tries to jump into the car and falls down, and then he leaves, and then like the cop leaves, and then Kevin Kline has to yell at William Hurt for being an idiot. And he's like, "I live here. You're messing up things for me." Like, that was probably in my brain like the most dramatic scene in the whole movie, as far as like characters yelling at one another and getting heated.
Dwelled on. They move on really quickly after that, you know.
Right. Well, they're such good friends that like a lot of this is just sort of accepting people for who they are.
Stop being a dick, and then
right.
That's all you need to say.
Well, it's like the character Michael, played by Jeff Goldblum. Like, they just kind of expect him to be this sort of horny goofball.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and they give him a hard time for it, but no one gets pissed at him for it.
Yeah, and he kind of accepts
I mean?
that that's his nature too, right? Like,
right. It's sort of like being comfortable with who you are and finding friends that sort of like will love you regardless, even though sometimes
and at the same time,
them.
Like, I do think that that's kind of what this movie's about too. Is about like, well, 20 years ago I was this person with these people, and now I feel like I'm this person 20 years later. And I'm not quite the same, you know, like, or I'm not where I want to be. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this idea that, you know, part of the reason I think they all love each other so much is because they all sort of miss the people they were when they were together, and they had their whole futures ahead of them, right? And as they get older and they have made decisions and their lives are on a path and the possibilities are no longer endless.
And I guess that's the whole thing too, is like, this is a safe space for them. And that's kind of what William Hurt's saying at the end is like, we're going to have to go back out into that dangerous world. Like, and it's not fun. Like, here now we're fine, but like, we're going to have to, nobody has our backs out there, you know, type of thing. And it's interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that the arc of let me look up her name real quick. Bear with me. Not Glenn Close. I don't remember the actress.
Mary Kay Place. Meg. The one who wanted
Meg.
the baby.
Yeah. She feel like she's ovulating that weekend, so she's trying to like choose who would be her baby daddy, right? And the way that story concludes is really interesting, in my opinion, because it's the one guy she wasn't thinking about. And the reason it even happens is because I think Glenn Close is maybe trying to even the score for hurting him years earlier. You know? I don't know. Like, you know, because she cheated on him with the friend Alex who killed himself. And then she sort of arranges for this to happen. And it's sort of like a way to, it's like a selfless act in a way, but also it isn't, because, you know, maybe this is a way to kind of like an olive branch for her and her husband as well. You know, I don't know. I find that to be like sort of unlikely, but also I like the way it wrapped up in a sort of a sweet way, if that makes sense. And You know,
Yeah.
their sex scene they have together at the end, it felt very much like two people who care about each other having an arrangement. There wasn't like there was no vindictiveness. You know, there was no sneaking around. It was very upfront.
There was no release of tension, you know, like sexual tension that has been, you know, tucked away for however many years.
Right, which is sort of the opposite of what happens with Tom Berninger's character.
Yeah.
And the other person, Jo Beth Williams, Karen. There we go. Which, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, you know, so she says to him that she's going to leave her husband, and that's why she wants to be with him, right? And he says he left his marriage, and someone else is raising his kids now because he got bored and couldn't stick it out, and he doesn't want her to make the same mistake. And then ultimately they end up consummating their relationship. But at the end of the movie, she says she's going back to her husband. And there's no mention of no longer of her leaving him. So what do you think happens there?
I mean, I kind of took it as the moments passed. They've had the tension. They've had the buildup, you know, for however long, thought about each other. And they, you know, this weekend is sort of enchanting. They're not in their normal lives, right? So it almost feels like, you know, what if sort of weekend for them. And once it happens and it passes, you get grounded again.
Do you think?
I think
Tom's
so.
expecting her to stay?
Go on, Chris.
Because they did have that. They had the whole argument in the build up to it where he said what you said. You know, like, don't leave your kids. I don't want you to do that. So, like, do you think he, you know, like he's sitting in the room, is he expecting her to stay and say like, oh, we're gonna, you know, I'm gonna leave my husband and we're gonna do this thing together? I think that they kind of had come to that conclusion that like, you're not gonna leave your husband, and then like there's all this pent up, you know, sexual frustration or energy going on, and then they just did it, but they knew that she wasn't going to leave. It's kind of how I took it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of stems from her husband Richard. The conversation he had with them earlier in the movie. Remember when William Hurt and Kevin Kline, or William Hurt and Tom Berenger? I can't remember which two characters.
It's William Hurt and Tom Berenger, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, when they see him in the kitchen late at night, and he talks about how he's like, you know, when you have kids, you're responsible for these human beings, and your life can't always be exactly what you want it to be.
You have to have different priorities.
You know, and you have to just do it anyway, right? Like this idea that like you just sort of have to pick up your emotions off the floor and then live your life around this child that you created. And I think that's ultimately what her character ends up doing, right? Like she would probably prefer to go be with Tom Berenger. But ultimately, I don't think she will, because like her husband said to him earlier in the movie, you know, you can't just stop what you're doing and then do everything you want to all of the time. You know, you just have to take your alone time when you can get it. You have to take your happiness where you can get it, and so on.
Yeah, which is really good. I mean, that's one of those ways that the movie's just not so on the surface giving us those lessons that apply later, right? Like they're not, the movie's not necessarily, you know, highlighting these moments. Like I don't watch it and really feel like any one moment sticks out, but you can start to draw and connect the dots between these seemingly less significant moments.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel heavy-handed.
No, it doesn't. And that's part of what I really enjoy about the movie. This idea that, these conversations, they seem like existential 30-somethings, you know, freaking out and being depressed and having these one-off little vignette conversations. But ultimately, when the movie's done and you look at the themes and you look at what's going on, it's sort of this tapestry of sort of painting a picture of not quite midlife crisis, but this idea of being unsatisfied with where you are, but ultimately you only have so many options. You only have so many ways to go, and you have to be an adult about the whole thing.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of William Hurt's relationship with Chloe, the ex, or I guess not even ex, the girlfriend of Alex who killed himself. He's impotent, right? He can't be with her in that way, but they very much form a connection. And why do you think that is?
Well, supposedly William Hurt looked like the ex-boyfriend, or the one that I keep wanting to say Kevin Costner, because Kevin Costner was the dead body and his part got cut out. But
which I think is smart. I don't think we need to see
much about him.
Alex.
Letting him talk.
No,
but they say that he looks like that character too, and I think he's pretty chill and relaxed. He's the big chill, really. Is he? I don't know if he is chill or relax.
I think he's accepted his lot in life. Like, he's the only character in the movie that I think, besides maybe Kevin Kline, who's not trying to have sex with somebody.
Well, yeah, for obvious reasons.
You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of just off the table.
Yeah. Yeah, there is the scene with, I think it's her that says, you remind me of Alex, and it kind of pisses him off a little bit. But if I remember correctly, isn't he just like, don't give me that, or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but isn't it Alex and her that have bought the land and they're restoring the cabin?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they bought the land, or maybe they're like renting it from Kevin Kline's character.
There's some sort
of
agreement between. They're at least staying with the Kevin Kline character. I don't know who bought the land.
Yeah, but they're
I guess
it together, right? And then William Hurt shows interest in the cabin, and maybe it's very subtle, not necessarily pointed out, but just her finishing this thing with someone who reminds her of Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish her character would have been explored a little more. But she's not really part of the group, right? She's sort of like this outsider, I think.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I was going to ask you guys, of what you make of her contribution to the film, because she's not a friend. She's a person none of them know. Is that her role, just like the outsider, so that we can get occasional explanations of things?
I mean, maybe.
I think it, but
yeah, I feel like she's more than that. But from a script point of view, I guess she acts sort of as the last person to know and love Alex, right? She knew and loved him in a time whenever the rest of them loved the memory of him, but hadn't kept in touch.
She's like
the
Rosetta Stone, like, that can just maybe explain why and what happened to their friend, right?
Give them a little bit of a clue.
She's so kind of out there that they don't get anything from her.
Yeah, like there's that one scene where she's doing yoga and William Hurt's like interviewing her, and she's like, "I don't really like to talk about stuff as much as you guys," or something like that. And he like laughs. He's like, "Yeah, I can see that."
Yeah, I like all of those scenes with the camera where we would watch the TV for the most part, or at least start the scene watching the TV and watching what the camera is displaying on the TV, instead of seeing the scene, at least not right away. I think some scenes we even watch exclusively on that TV, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one character that like had like almost, he had an arc, but it was like a lot more goofy and comical, was Jeff Goldblum's character, Michael.
Yeah.
He's always trying to, he dreams big about one day he's going to do this and one day he's going to do that, and then I think by the end of the movie, and he always wants to sleep with somebody. He's always propositioning to try to make that happen.
He's got so many condoms in his bag.
Yeah. And, I think as a result, people don't want to invest with him. People don't want to have sex with him. And I think it's that neediness too, or that flakiness that is about him, that lack of follow through. It's just sort of like, yeah, we like him, but he's not operating on the same level as everyone else, He has his heads in the clouds.
I love the scene where he it's the night after like everybody was drinking, and Glenn Close is hanging out at the table, and Jeff Goldblum comes in. And we've seen everybody else go through the kitchen in the morning, right? And then Jeff Goldblum pours himself a cup of coffee.
And take their shoes.
He's like, "Are we the first ones up?"
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, and like they even said, like the earlier morning, it was like, you know, if you're gonna wake up this late, you're gonna miss all kinds of little melodramas or something like that.
Oh yeah, I like the sort of Easter egg, if you will, when Kevin Kline's going up the attic stairs to combat the bat.
Oh yeah,
and he's humming, whistling the
Indiana Jones
theme.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny.
I thought that was funny too. Because that would have been like brand new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like basically his last thing that he had done. Probably Lawrence Kasdan, not Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline was not in Indiana Jones, as far as I know.
I mean,
he's in Indiana Jones, but as his character from The Big Chill. He's a shoe store salesman.
Oh wow!
In there. Yeah.
Oh, is that what he was?
Yeah,
okay.
he owns a bunch of shoe stores.
I was wondering what the deal with the shoes was. I must have missed that.
Yeah, and the guy who dropped him off in like the shoe store truck was like, "Yes, Mr. So and So, whatever his."
I was
name
distracted by the logo on the van with the dog with all the the shoes on.
Yeah.
I was looking at that during. I was like, this logo's nuts.
Yeah, well, it's that stuff that the film doesn't give you all of, and just kind of lets you figure out and deduce from watching everything. And there's a lot of that in this movie, and as we've said, I think multiple times, it's just another example of what I really admire about it and why I think it will be better on repeat viewings.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's seeming better as we're talking about it, you know, which oft is the case for these Criterion films that are maybe head scratchers at first or something.
Yeah, there's just confidence to the script and way that things are shot and the performance that, you know, we can do this and you'll figure it out eventually. And if you don't immediately, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, you know, even from, you know, the opening scene with Kevin Kline and Glenn Close, you know, where Glenn Close answers the phone and.
Oh, dude, that scene was great. When the little kid starts singing Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Which apparently that kid in that bathtub was Jonathan Kasdan, who has been I think he's helming the Willow series that Lucasfilm is doing, and I think he worked on either The Force Awakens or Solo with Lawrence Kasdan.
I think it was Solo that they worked on together.
Can't remember. Yeah, okay. Just fun fact.
Awesome. Yeah. Another fun fact, Mike, do you recognize Mary Kay Place from any particular movie? Because it took me a while to figure it out.
I mean, I've seen her, but I don't know what movie you would be like referring to.
Yeah. It's Captain Ron.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Captain Ron.
I know you do. That's why I was curious if you would recognize her, because doesn't really look the same as she does in that movie. But
no.
I knew she was familiar from somewhere, and it took me a while.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So okay. Anyways, anything else on The Big Chill?
I'm glad you had the perspective you did, because I look forward to the next viewing of it. I was probably a little bit medium chill on it, and I'm warming up to the Big Chill.
You're warming to chill.
Yeah. Don't question my metaphors.
Now your metaphors are confusing.
Yeah. Now we don't know what to think you think of this movie.
Okay. Well, we will close out our thoughts on The Big Chill and I think move into making our choices for the next Criterion poll.
Let's do that.
Okay. I guess I'll just tell you what the theme is. I was going to ask one of you guys, but the theme is scary or horror movies, horror-ish movies, whatever, with October coming up. And by the time we get around to releasing this episode, it'll be in the midst of October. So, yeah, horror-y Criterion movies. So, Chris, what's your choice?
My choice is a Nicholas Roeg film with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie called Don't Look Now.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh.
I haven't seen it yet,
cool.
and I think I may have even put this on a previous Criterion poll for something else. I don't know what it is, but listeners, do me a favor and go ahead and vote this one so that I can check it off my list. So, yeah. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I've been wanting to see this one for a long
either
time.
one of you guys seen this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No.
I
it's been on my radar for a while too, as a few early Donald Sutherland films are.
Yeah.
Like Clute. I still need to see Clute.
I recently watched Casanova, the Fellini movie with Donald Sutherland in it. Pretty interesting.
You see Casanova?
No.
Interesting.
I'm sure that'll come up at some point for us.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I believe you called on me next, Chris. So I'll go. This is a film that I have seen before, but I could not help but thinking about the entire time I was watching *Malignant*. So I would like to see it again. And this is a Brian De Palma film called *Sisters*, which is a crazy ass movie if you've ever seen it.
I have not. I actually have the DVD, the Criterion DVD, but I haven't seen it yet.
Cool. Well, when I look back on all the Brian De Palma films, which is a mixed bag, he has some that are borderline brilliant and then some that are like schlocky and corny, but always with visual flair that I think almost rivals Hitchcock in a lot of places. And there's a shot or two in this movie that I've never forgotten. So, *Sisters* by Brian De Palma.
Nice.
Yeah.
That leaves me, I guess.
Yep, that's you, Justin. What's next?
So, speaking of movies that have shots in it that I'll never forget, I'm going to go with a film that I have not seen since college. And I know, Mike, you and I watched this at the same time in a film class, and we were kind of iffy on this film. We weren't sure. At least I remember being kind of mixed on it and not a little underwhelmed. But I want to revisit it because I think now that I know what I'm in for, it might be better. But it definitely has shots that I won't ever forget because it's a really well shot, black and white. And that is Charles Laughton's Night of the Hunter.
Yes.
I love that
Hunter.
movie. Excuse me. I went on Cinemusts and we did Night of the Hunter. Mike and I talked about that.
Yeah, I feel like everyone in the world loves this movie except for me and Justin.
Yeah. So that's why I want to revisit it and take this opportunity because, like everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's cool. And I remember watching it and just thinking, was that bad?
I want to talk about it right now.
I remember Robert Mitchum being awesome, but there's a lot to that movie that I've often thought about the same way, Justin, where I've been like, I'm pretty sure I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It definitely has a feeling of I didn't watch this movie correctly, apparently.
Yeah, it's my fault. I watched it wrong.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so 3 choices.
Strong lineup.
Yeah. It's good. But yeah, to recap that lineup, Chris chose Don't Look Now, Mike chose Sisters, and I chose The Night of the Hunter. So as you're hearing this, that poll will be up on our Twitter account, and go vote in it.
Yeah, please and thank you. And with that, I think we're done. We are done. Thank you guys so much for talking Big Chill with me and for choosing it, Mike, because I'm glad I've seen this now. Me too. It is a check mark off of one of those essential films that I've has long since been like a point of shame for me. Except for now we have to watch it again to fully appreciate it. So then we just put it back on your list. I know. That's the thing. I believe you got the first one out of the way. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you, listener, for listening. And of course, as always, thanks Jake Wagner Russell for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, you can do so at soundcloud.com/bopscotch. That's right. Stay tuned to this channel. Our next episode will be over... we're possibly over this movie. We're not quite sure yet, but I believe it's going to be over Prisoners of the Ghostland. Gonna get wild. Yeah. Yeah, which looks bonkers, has Nicolas Cage in it, and from what I've heard, is the most Nicolas Cageiest movie yet. Have you guys seen Pig? No, I want to so bad. I'm going to call an audible because I saw Pig and I loved it. And I think you guys would like it too. Well, is it still in theaters or is it on VOD? I think it's on VOD. So
we'll just kind of put an asterisk in this. Like, so it's either going to be Pig, if you guys are okay with this, but Pig or Prisoners of the Ghostland, or maybe both. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But
Icon Audible on that.
Yeah. So some Nicolas Cage movie. I feel like every time a new Nicolas Cage movie comes out, anytime over the last like 3 or 4 years, it's the most Nicolas Cage movie yet, right?
Well, he's in a weird phase of his career, man. I don't know what to say, But I've heard wonderful things about Nicolas Cage, and like I've even heard that like if you're not a fan of like wacky out there Nicolas Cage, like I'm not always, but sometimes I am. But I've heard that like even then like he gives like a very subdued regular guy performance that's really good.
I can.
Yeah. Yeah, not Prisoners of the Ghostland. That movie looks bonkers.
Yeah. Looks really weird. But yeah, we'll do one of them.
Stay tuned.
Sweet. Cool. Awesome. Well, goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.